Paul Wilcox is waiting.
Try again here.
Will someone speak into the mic to make sure that Paul can hear us from home?
Paul, are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hey, we
Yes,
have sound
there we go.
check.
I really love that Paul comes to all the meetings so that we can make sure that our audio works for everyone at home.
I decided to install updates.
Okay, so this one.
Yeah, it's just saying, waiting for the host to start the meeting.
Why don't they say when
Is what Will
go
says.
to rename? Go up to the dots.
Will's in,
Okay, now he's in.
Diane's
I
in.
think you should be able to rename yourself.
Rename.
So are you still waiting on, oh, you're trying to do an update?
Yeah.
Classic Windows.
I didn't bring my laptop, so. You never do, yeah. No.
It says join, but there's nothing, they come on that.
Here, it's the
And
join button.
that says waiting, and that says won't connect.
You connected to the Wi-Fi? Here, hold on.
Oh, maybe
Need an
that's
IT
maybe that's
person
the
in every
problem.
meeting.
You know what? That's right.
Yeah, you're searching for Wi-Fi.
I never remembered that till I did.
Oh, you what?
No, no,
Oh.
that
Well, for
should be
this,
dealt with.
and it should have a browser pop up to, yep, there you go. So it'll prompt you to accept that. Once you accept that, then you should be able to be let in.
Okay. Did I close out of
Yeah,
here?
you can hit done. Hop out of
That's
that.
that one.
Yep,
Okay.
there you go.
See, I'm still asleep. Well, there I am.
It gives you the option. Don't join with audio.
Yeah, it's on the body.
Turn your audio off.
Let's see. Audio.
No, I need to join it. Hold on.
I'll get one to see. See, I learned something new again today.
You did.
This is gonna be awesome.
All right, I believe we are
Ready?
ready to go.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Going to do roll call?
Yes, I do. Hold on, let me just grab a pen really quick. I spoke too soon. Okay. Well, now I need to exit out of this. How do I? Okay, committee member Stephenson,
Present.
committee member Leamy,
Present.
committee member Castillo,
Yeah.
committee member Zach Andrews,
Here.
committee member Will Knight,
I'm present.
committee member Victoria Rizzo, committee member Adrian Coaster,
Kester. here.
Kester. Committee member Jeff Hutchinson.
Here.
Committee member Shirley Brickett.
Here?
Committee member Carol Allen.
Here.
Alternate Robbie Cantrell. I don't know that we need to do the, okay, great, wonderful. It's been a while since I have done the public meetings, so. You good?
Okay. Well, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If anyone in this room has their microphone on their Zoom, they might want to mute it so that we don't get feedback, just an FYI.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Okay. Our next thing we need to do is elect a new chair and new vice chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before we do that, we probably should acknowledge that there's a quorum of the planning commission present at this meeting. Okay,
Okay,
just for the record.
just for the record.
No, not at all.
Okay, so do we, is there anything I need to do about there? It's just, it's on the record?
Yeah, just so it's on the
It's on the
record.
record, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay. Okay, so nominations for chair?
We nominate you.
Second.
For those of us who are new, who is the existing chair?
I am the existing chair. I'm the existing chair. I took over when Jordan went to city council.
Right.
Anyone else?
So Carol nominated John and Tanny, you seconded?
Mhm.
Okay. We need to vote on it? Yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, and then a vice chair. Our current vice chair is Carol Allen.
I nominate Carol Allen to remain as vice chair.
I second it.
I'd like to vote for Diane Castillo as vice chair.
So nice.
Wait.
I'm gonna decline, but I appreciate it.
To go back really quick, can you state your name?
No.
And while, since we don't have the name cards up, can you state your
Sure.
name when you are nominating someone and whoever is seconding?
You got it.
So Adrian, you
I
nominated,
nominated. Shirley seconded.
And I second it.
you nominated Carol.
Carol, yes.
And Shirley seconded.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're my vice chair again. Okay,
Sitting in the right spot.
and then I guess, Marley, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So we've run through our three first orders of business on the agenda. Up next, we have the discussion of land use application 0013-2023 Sandy River Run Townhomes. And I want to preface all of this by stating that, the Town Center Advisory Committee is a new committee for the city of Troutdale. And this is the first application that we have received that has been reviewed as a commenting agency through this process. So this is new for all of us, and we might find some ways that work really well for us and some things that we want to change for the next one. One of the things that we figured out very quickly was that the standard land use commenting period is 14 days when a land use application notice goes out, and it's really difficult to convene a committee within a 2-week period, because obviously we all have busy schedules and we're guessing on dates that will work. So we might need to have some communication with the planning division earlier in the process, and they can let us know when they're about to send that notice out so that we can get something scheduled with you all, because I know that this is a very tight timeline. So I want to thank you all for being here on a Tuesday, which is not your normal day to meet. So I just wanted to address that first and explain why that all came together so quickly. So second, I wanted to state that the Town Center Advisory Committee has been tasked with reviewing land use applications that occur within the opportunity sites and opportunity corridors. So, whoops. So today we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned before, land use application 0013-2023. And the applicant is proposing to construct residential townhomes spanning across 4 lots in the general mixed use 2 zone, or MU2. The project will consist of 2 attached townhomes, approximately 1,685 square feet in size on lots 1 and 2, and 2 attached townhomes, approximately 1,575 and 1,275 square feet in size on lots 3 and 4. All townhomes will be 2 stories in height, and the proposed development includes stormwater and public improvements. As I mentioned previously, these opportunity sites are identified in the town center plan. We have 12 of them, and I have the map on the screen behind you and on the TV, as well as presenting in the Zoom meeting. So the plan identified 12 opportunity sites, which did not include the Confluence site. The Confluence is a separate site, which you all reviewed the RFQ process for, where development investment should be focused to help fulfill the vision, optimize those parcels to their highest and best use, and conserve the existing built environment. In establishing these sites, the plan sets a preference for development when a site is under consideration. The committee reviewed the carrying capacity of each site and its relationship to surrounding properties, other opportunity sites, and the district as a whole. Then, based on market analysis and community feedback, ideas for preferred land uses emerged and were ranked accordingly. So this property is located on opportunity site number 12. It's kind of hard to see on this map where the division between 11 and 12 are, but that's Beaver Creek, and so this is on the 12 side. So opportunity site 12 is titled the Peninsula Tract, and it's a much larger site than just these 4 lots that we're looking at tonight. This, as you go back to the map, you can see 12 includes all of the Sandy River RV Park, some of the White's property, and then another property at the peninsula, at the tip of the peninsula, that's privately owned. There are some sites that have been developed, and there are some sites that are undeveloped on this opportunity site. So we're looking specifically at these 4 lots that front on a private drive that comes off of historic Columbia River Highway and leads to the Sandy River RV Park. From the town center plan, the preferred uses that were identified are as follows. Number 1 is mixed use, which is defined as averages 16 dwelling units an acre and presumes multi-story structures with ground floor commercial or flexible space and upper floor residential dwelling units. 2 is medium density residential, which averages 8 dwelling units an acre and includes small lot, single family detached dwellings and middle housing types. And 3 is commercial service, which do not contain residential uses and are for service uses, including dining establishments, smaller offices of less than 25 employees, indoor entertainment, lodging facilities, and smaller office uses. So we are now reaching the discussion point of this, but from reading through those preferred uses, I think that the use that this most similarly aligns with is the medium density residential, as this is a type of middle housing type for the site. And I guess I open it up to conversation. Oh, and I also gave you all Appendix A, which is from the Troutdale Development Code. This appendix is design standards for, it says design standards for the Central Business District. So These are really our commercial, this is our commercial area downtown, so it doesn't actually necessarily apply in this instance, but I wanted to make sure that you had it for commercial development that occurs within the downtown. And it might also be something that you guys look through and find maybe some things you might want to change or advise changing to the planning commission in the future. So I wanted to provide that all to you, and I open it up to you all for discussion.
Thank you, Mark.
Diane, I am owner of the property next door. I don't feel that'll impact my desire for something that fits the town center, but I just want to make that statement.
This is Jeff. Could you put that slide back up that shows the number 12 opportunity site?
Yep. I also can pull up any renderings at any time if you'd like.
So isn't the RV park in that number 12 area?
Yes, that's correct.
That's an opportunity site for future building?
Yes, that is correct.
Is the property for sale?
No.
Well, then how can it be in the opportunity site?
This considers, the opportunity sites were identified as parcels that may be developed or underdeveloped. And the town center plan had argued that it was an underdeveloped site, so it is currently developed. However, there were arguments made for ways in which it could be developed differently in the future should it redevelop.
Because this project would have a big impact on that property.
It could potentially have an impact on that.
Big impact. Okay.
This is Robbie Cantrell. Just for clarification purposes, since this is my first meeting as well as your first meeting, could we just outline kind of what the Town Center Advisory Board, what our next steps are from here, so we discuss revisions, possible feedback for the Planning Commission, and then can you outline our responsibilities and roles?
Sure, and that's a great question. I don't know that I'm actually gonna have all the answers to it, because as I said, this is a new committee that, and this is the first application we've ever had like this. I will say that this application is not an application that goes before Planning Commission. It's a type 2 site development review application. And I believe there's also a floodplain application in there as well. So this is reviewed by staff. So what staff does when an application is received and deemed complete is they send it out to review entities to solicit feedback and comments based on their individual rules or requirements. So for instance, we send it to Gresham Fire, we send it to our building division, we send it to our public works department, and they all make different comments. And those comments are collected and then put into an overall decision that the land use planner is creating. So the comments that are made tonight will help facilitate that planner in creating that decision. So this is us reviewing that application with its consistency with the town center plan.
Okay, gotcha. So again, this is Robbie. End goal really is just to provide our feedback so that that planner has a collective kind of grouping to work off of.
Yeah,
okay.
And it also provides an opportunity for additional oversight on the town center projects that are within these opportunity sites, and potentially a space for concerned or interested citizens to learn more about what is being developed in that area, since this is such a what's the right word? It's such a front-facing part of the city, you know, like everyone is very excited and concerned and eager to learn what things might change or develop in the downtown.
Perfect, that was great clarification, thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question, Marley, on the access to this lot. I had understood, I think back when this property was sold, that the buyer has to, access will be on the existing lots. They cannot use the existing private drive to access this property. Do you know about that?
That is a good question. I can pull up, why don't I pull up their civil plans really quickly.
this is Carol, I'm trying to visualize where that is. So I know the White's property, and then you have that driveway that goes to the RV park, right?
So
And then
it's,
you have the property right across,
well, it
right?
sits between the driveway to the RV park and the creek.
In Beaver Creek.
It's right at that crosswalk
Yeah.
from Glen Auto Park.
Yeah, here's a,
Right across the next property.
here, I have a more, some of their plans are a little bit difficult to look at in Adobe because there's so many comments. So there's little yellow sticky notes all over it, but if you look at the vicinity map, you can kind of see, this is, oh gosh, I have the wrong cursor, hold on. This parcel, these 4 parcels are located as Historic Columbia River Highway bends around the curve and then heads towards Glen Auto Park. So the backyards, so to speak, would be adjacent to the Beaver Creek, and the front yard would be adjacent to this private drive that comes off of Historic Columbia River Highway and leads to that RV park.
Do we have, this is Adrian, do we have, and just like a rough, say, front to back dimension on that lot?
Like how long
Yeah,
are the lots?
How long the lot is, because
Yes.
personally, I'm having a very difficult time visualizing a townhouse structure in that space.
Mhm.
And not having a building that goes right up to the property line and both ends.
So this is, I'm trying to see if there's actual dimensions or if it's just, it looks like they're about, like this line is about 71 feet, 72 feet, 73 feet,
That's not very
65 feet.
much.
And
You have
it
to
looks
put-
like they will be utilizing the private drive that currently exists as their driveway.
This is Robbie. Before I continue, I'm an alternate member. Am I allowed to give my feedback?
Of course.
So one thing that I noted was in this this Appendix A that we were given under A.107, Building Orientation and Entrance Standards. Could you pull up the facades of the design facades of the building? Because under point A, it says buildings must have an entrance connecting directly between Historic Columbia River Highway and the building interior. And point B says building entrances must be architecturally emphasized and visible from the street. If you pull up those facades again, I believe that if you're facing it, the left side of the building, it was in the presentation that you had. I think it was like the second slide of the presentation that you had pulled up.
Yeah.
Um,
Whoops, I did not mean to stop sharing. I will, let's see, where'd that go? One thing I will note is that the Appendix A design standards are for the Central Business District,
Gotcha.
which is a different zoning district than what we're talking about. So the Central Business District is really speaking to that stretch of downtown where we have the commercial businesses.
Understood. May I ask why we received this?
It is there's a lot of times questions about what design standards exist within
Okay.
our town center, and these are the only design standards that exist within the town center.
Perfect.
So it's not relevant to this, however, this is something that exists for a portion of the town center. So I thought it might be helpful for you to have it so that you do, like, as we're talking, I know design standards are gonna come up tonight, and I wanted you to be aware of what design standards currently exist in the only section of our downtown, and these are the only ones.
Are there other design standards? This is Robbie. Is there other design standards that apply to kind of these outline?
Yes, there are design standards that apply for all. The development code has a number of different sections that'll apply, and one of those is the site and design standards. And those, and also the zoning will include things like setbacks and, how far when you're in the town center overlay, there is, I guess I probably could have printed out for you guys the chapter 4 section, the section of chapter 4 that speaks specifically to the town center overlay, because that does have some additional design standards in there, such as desiring front porches to be in front of garages. So you can have less of a setback if your front porch is in front of your garage, if that makes sense. Chapter think it's 8 is the site and design standard chapter.
Yes.
And that is what the land use planner will be doing a detailed review of, is going through each of those sections to make sure that those standards are met.
Apologies for my confusion there. I appreciate that.
This is Zach. I guess my initial thoughts are, after reviewing kind of the town center plan on page 92, it talks about preferred land uses for the specific tracts. First of which being mixed use for the peninsula tract specifically, second preference being open space and parks, third preference being community service use. That in combination with, and again, not that we can't use additional design standards, but the ones that apply specifically to the downtown areas kind of give me the impression that the vision for this area, aside from what is already existing development, but as far as future use goes, would be something that would bolster the economy and continue to kind of build a more mixed use area specifically designed to kind of capture the essence of tourism and everything else surrounding the area. We do need more residents in order to obviously go shopping and live in the area, but it just makes me wonder, I guess, what the preferred, I guess, like overall uses for the area as a whole, rather than just kind of the piecemeal parts like that kind of add up into just more individual housing units over time. Thinking about when people first drive down the 84, they get off at Lewis and Clark Park, they roundabout, they're going across the bridge, they see Sugar Pine, they're hanging out, and then it's just more of a separation between there and downtown versus a continuation of that feel, in my opinion. And again, I don't know if something that falls under the code guidelines specifically can be, necessarily rejected, but as far as the overall vision for the plan of downtown and for the development of that, it seems lacking, I guess, in that regard, underwhelming. It's just kind of my initial thoughts on the matter.
This is Robbie. So thank you so much for pulling that up. So the left elevation, if we're going through the private drive, the townhomes are going to be on our left. Mm-hmm. And so that left elevation will be facing the street. Is that a correct assumption?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
This is Shirley. What, I know in that area, there's other townhomes already. Mm-hmm. So my question is, if there are already some there, it would look more planned if there was more there than have them just piecemeal, like you said, piecemeal. Mm-hmm. So it'd be more continuous, and then enter in, people will see residents, they'll see that people are actually living near the downtown area and close to Glen Park. Sugar Pine is there. But that is more like a destination. Everybody wants to go to Glen Park. It's not, and it's a business too at the same time. So I think it'd be more family oriented because it'd be close to a park, and there wouldn't be a lot of parking and other activity that would be used, the Glen Park parking lot would be used for, because there's not going to be enough parking for businesses along that area, because of the creek. There is a buffer zone for that creek, so it's going to take some finagling to get, and a business probably thinking about that is not going to want to invest in something unless there's going to be something in it that can guarantee they're going to have that business. And being that far away from the downtown area, unless the rest develop that way, it's not easy, it wouldn't be practical. Parking would be the biggest issue.
That's what I was thinking, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's currently the biggest issue, for sure. And again, I mean, who knows what's gonna happen in the future with other developments. Ideally, I mean, this is listed as an underdeveloped zone, so ideally, as time goes on, it will all be redeveloped in some capacity, which would include parking to some degree, I would imagine, as well. Although with the current Oregon legislation, that's not necessarily a requirement, but yeah, I hear you.
Okay,
Diane.
this is Diane. Okay. Everything along the historic highway is facing the road, except for Rick Caswell's fourplex property, and that's where the two Sams are pointing. One question I had, well, one thing to maybe soften the look would be some trees. I would hope that there's a little bit of a setback to kind of blend into the nature, because again, everything, we go for the small town feel, that's our motto, that's our goal, and that doesn't look small town feel, but at the same time, if you have a few nice trees in front, you could buffer, you could, make it work. I have questions about the RV park. When Glenn White and me, Diane Castillo White, sold that drive, that entrance, that parcel of property, at first it was stated it was only going to be emergency exit. And that's how the planning committee approved it. Now we have the RV park. And the reason that they needed it was because the bridge is failing. My first question is, are the bridges in compliance right now? That I think there's one that's completely closed, one's in use, but I thought there had to be improvement. My concern is that part of parcel 12, one of the things that the town center asked for was we are deficient in low-end housing, we're deficient in high-end housing as well. And we also talked parks, if there was some other hazard mapping or whatever, so just some different opportunities for section number 12. But with the bridges not being in compliance and how many feet you have to go down, which is what they had issues with for pilings or whatever that was, but however that structure is labeled. I'm concerned with that being the only entrance, if it's the only entrance exit that's in compliance at this time. So that may be concern use to that, again, that number 12, I'm not gonna talk my property, I'm talking the RV park, their potential for use. And also when they're using that as their main entrance, when the RV park, sometimes the RVs are backed up all the way to the road, which I understand if it's just kind of mellow, maybe, residents just kind of go on the exit, they'd have to go around and, make use of it that way. But those are just some considerations.
I just realized that I made an error when speaking on the preferred uses that I wanted to address. I haven't had time to fix the presentation yet, but I want to pull up the town center plan and share it with you all because I misspoke, and what I'm about to say changes some things. So it's funny because I said 11 and 12 are very close to one another. Don't confuse them. And then I immediately confused them. We are talking about opportunity site 12. And I had read off the opportunity site 11 preferred uses, which were mixed use, medium density residential, and commercial service. Peninsula or opportunity site 12's preferred uses are different. The first one is still mixed use, however, the second two are different. The second preference is open space and parks, and the third is community service use. Open space and parks is defined as include active parks with amenities, passive parks, plazas, recreational and sport facilities, and natural areas. The other one was community service use, and community service use is for civic related uses such as educational facilities, government offices, and human services, library, daycare, senior center, et cetera, but excluding parks and plazas. So that is a drastically different preferred land use than what I had previously mentioned. So I apologize for that, and that will definitely reframe everything that you were just talking about.
You've been trying to speak all evening.
What's that?
You've been looking like you've been trying to speak all evening, so go ahead.
And I guess I would just say, you know, when this was developed, right, this was like, well, if these sites got redeveloped, these are things that we would like to see in these sites. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can mandate or dictate that type of development, unless you've got willing parties on all sides that are willing to do it. But personally, I did look at it like it was a guide for people. You know, when they were looking at, hey, if I was gonna do something different with this, okay, this is in line with what the city's thinking.
Yeah, that is correct. It's not something we are able to mandate or force. It's something we're only allowed to have as preferred, and then make comments on these applications if we want to.
This is Adrian. So with the change in guidelines, and this doesn't seem to fit any of that really, because it's certainly not mixed use. But even setting that aside, based on what Tanny said, in looking at what is around it that is part of our community, it seems a little incongruous. It just sort of sticks out as one of these things doesn't seem to fit kind of idea. Now, my other thought is that, and with the RV park there and with the quantity of traffic that Sugar Pine and Glen Otto can produce, I would think there would be some serious livability questions for a structure on a lot that is really kind of small and doesn't have a lot of extra space on the lot itself. I mean, if you were going to take that area and have some serious available parking on the lot itself, perhaps. But as it is, I think anybody living in those townhouses would find, for big chunks of the year, during the warmer months especially, find getting in and out of their own place kind of problematic. And with that in mind, if I were a developer, I would certainly think twice about making something like that useful. But then again, I'm not a profit-driven developer, so that's not my way of thinking. But it just, from a livability standpoint, it would seem kind of problematic. I mean, it would be kind of nice for a family living in a townhome to have a park, a very nice, very popular park right across the street. I would probably weigh 500 pounds more if I lived right across the street from Sugar Pine. But and be a lot poorer too. But I think for daily life on most days, I don't know. I think it would be problematic.
This is Jeff. Could you put that slide back up where it showed the measurements of the lots? One of the things that I thought about before I came to this meeting was, I believe that that's in a flood zone. I know in the early 60s flood, I think that whole area was underwater.
Let's see here, is this the right one?
Oh, you mean it's in the floodplain?
It's in the floodplain.
Yeah, I think that showed,
Yeah,
it showed on there where the high water mark was.
This is their erosion control plan that we're looking at right now, and you can see the flood hazard area zone AE. I am not a certified flood manager, so I cannot speak to.
Does it show the elevation of that property?
I mean, so it's showing the topographic, some of the topographic lines. So let's see here if I can zoom in a little bit easier.
See flood hazard, and then what's the second line over to the right? Oh, that's just showing 40.
Yeah, so this is showing you the line of flood hazard. So basically what it's showing is that the buildings as proposed are outside of the flood hazard zone, except maybe the back patio of this lot 4. But again, I'm not a licensed flood manager, and we will send it to, we have a licensed flood manager that we have review all of
I'm
these,
just wondering if
so.
that's considered like the 100-year flood, you know, or if it's a 50-year flood.
I
However
can't
they
speak
came
to
up with
that.
that high mark.
How far are you from riparian?
VICO will apply on this property, yes.
So you gotta be 50 feet from the ordinary high water mark.
Yes, unless they do remediation.
And just another
It's a
concern that I had
salmon
was the setback from Beaver Creek is almost non-existent.
Well, there is a VICO, there's a VICO part of this Beaver Creek, so they have to be at least 50 feet from the high water mark.
Yeah, let me
They're
see
not.
if I can pull
I mean,
up,
the mean high water mark, not the high.
let me see if I can pull up the vegetation. For anyone who doesn't know, VICO stands for Vegetation Corridor Standards, which is a section of our development code. It's an overlay zone. And there's different ways that you can calculate the vegetation corridor. You guys can't see what I'm looking at, so hold on. How do I adjust to the screen? There we go. So let me get into the vegetation corridor. So it's in chapter 4 of our development code under zoning district overlays. At the very end of that, or near the end of that, is the vegetation corridor and slope district. So the vegetation corridor is something that we regulate that is applicable based upon a number of different things. The vegetation corridor does establish a minimum buffer width between protected water features and buildable area. It also helps us regulate for slope district, which is slopes of greater than 25%. Let me, kind of like land use reviewing this on the fly here. It's really hard to, I keep trying to add a new tab, and the whole top bar is like all the like new share and pause and whatnot. So let's see if I can pull up our planning map really quick.
So Adrian, I'm thinking that these townhomes compared to the townhomes that are right here on the historic Columbia River Highway, I think there's 4 of them right by the insurance office, where they have to come in and out off of the historic highway to get in their driveway and back. Will be less, these down here will be less of a headache, let's say, than the ones on the highway.
Possibly, but I think that could vary wildly depending on the time of year.
Aren't those right by 257? Is that what you're talking about?
Pardon?
Which ones are you talking about? The ones by
There's
257?
4 townhomes that, I can't remember what the builder is, built right here on the highway by the State Farm office.
Yeah, between State Farm and Halsey, basically. Right.
What do you mean, it was just up?
Just west of 257.
Right, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, there's four.
that'd be more challenging than down by the river.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's more challenging to get in and out of than the ones down here by the RV park.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I just,
So there are people that live that lifestyle.
oh yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of people that live a lot of lifestyles. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't try to make it easier for them.
It appears that the entire property is encumbered with the vegetation corridor, according to this. I would have to look more closely at what was submitted to see if they submitted anything that challenges those boundaries. Or, because there's a specific, these maps are created using LiDAR and a number of different other things. And then when a development application is submitted, there's a way to calculate the vegetation corridor that is defined in our development code, and a developer is supposed to take that calculation and make it on a plan, and the site plan is supposed to very clearly show where the vegetation corridor boundary is. And then there's certain uses that are allowed within the vegetation corridor and other uses that are not allowed. And this is, again, something that the land use planner will be reviewing when they review this application. So it's not necessarily something that you all are tasked with reviewing. That said, we can include in our comments that we hope, that we want to make sure that the vegetation corridor standards are met. And ensure that those are reviewed appropriately.
This is Tanny. Do we have slope too? I think we would.
I don't think that there is, but I can turn it on really quick and I can let you know. The slope is outside of these properties. It's on the, here. There you can see the green is the slope district.
I guess I didn't realize there was any level space between Rip's property and this property. I thought it was all up in there, sloped.
As you go back further.
And this isn't between Beaver Creek and Rip's property. This is between Beaver Creek and Diane and Glenn's property.
Right, but you're showing on here that between Rip's property and this property, that there's a space that doesn't have any slope.
This area right here, yeah, so like where that property line is, it kind of slopes down and then it is flat down there. You kind of can't see it unless you're standing back there.
Right.
But the slope district is slopes of greater than 25%. So this doesn't mean that there isn't a slope, it just means that the slope doesn't meet this 25% or greater standard that is what we're measuring for the vegetation corridor and slope district.
Did Degami measure that?
This slope all comes from LiDAR,
Yeah, Degami.
and we get them from Metro. Which is why when an application comes in, we have to, and if slope district were showing us on the properties, we would need them to confirm that exact boundary. Since we're talking about the the vegetation corridor, I will pull up their narrative really quick. And we can review together what they said in response to the vegetation corridor standards, because I think that might be helpful.
At some point, can we entertain comments from the public on this? Was I supposed to do that earlier?
Just ask if they want to comment on the agenda item. You could do that and let them do that. Just some point,
at some point.
just allow public comment on the agenda item. I was thinking if they come down here, you should make them talk.
Pardon?
If they come down here, you should make them talk.
Right.
So their responses are around the residential, they're stating the residential development is not a significant source of damage, including development of the land or water quality. Stormwater will be treated and infiltrated. It is located in a lowland area, but is not near slopes with landslide danger. And that that it's not located within the floodplain. However, it doesn't appear from reading this that they have necessarily done a calculation of whether or not they're in the slope district. It appears to me that they're only making a statement based on floodplain, and floodplain is different than the vegetation corridor. These are different standards, and we have a way of calculating that. I have not read through all of this, but I am seeing a lot of floodplain comments, so I can ensure that the land use planner does a very thorough review of this section. And if documents are missing, they can make a determination based on that. I'm just seeing if they made any comments based on how it's calculated.
Did they make any pertinent comments?
It does appear as though they are addressing some of the mitigation standards, so I would have to look more closely at their site plan to see if they submitted what they need to submit to make sure that the vegetation corridor standards are met. But I think that it would be something that we can definitely state in our comments, that all vegetation corridor standards,
Yeah,
we need to ensure that they're met.
well, it's just if we're allowing development that close to a salmon bearing stream, a lot
Right.
of people are gonna be running in with applications.
John? This is Diane. Also, there's been ongoing erosion on the northwest portion of that property. Trees have gone down. It's just the way the creek is going, so, yeah. If you look from the other side, you can see it's been cutting in. But I'm mainly concerned about the bridges and, again, the use of that large RV park site for future use.
Is the applicant the owner of the RV park?
No. Actually, I don't know that. I don't know that for fact. I assumed that. I don't know that for sure.
What was I'm sorry, this is Jeff. What was your question?
I was just asking if the applicant was the owner of the RV park.
No.
This is Robbie, it's Larry Little,
Yeah, Larry
Quality Calvary Construction.
Right.
owner of the RV park is Kaiser Corporation.
Yeah. Do any of you have comments that you'd like to make? If you could come up to the, do we have a microphone for
Well,
them?
we all live in the RV
Right.
park, so
I
we're very
recognize
worried
one of
about
the-
you guys getting rid of it. Because there's 60 families that live there. And it is a low income rent for us. Other RV parks are way more expensive than Sandy River RV Park, because Sandy River basically doesn't have the amenities that other RV parks have. And with this new development that's trying to go in right there, I'm worried about traffic and parking. Right now, we have problems with people wanting to park in our visitor parking spots to get to the river that don't live there, that just want a shortcut. Because they want to get on our side of the river, but they don't want to walk across the river or swim across. And with that housing, it looked like, and those townhouses looked like they were single-car garages, 4 single-car garages. Most families today have 2 cars because both people have to work to afford a payment and to raise a family. Where are they going to park their extra car? And if they have family or friends come over, where are they going to park? There's no parking there. That lot is not big enough to put 4 townhomes on and have 4 families living in them, to have access to Glen Auto Park or the river. And you're gonna put 60 monthly permanent residents in that RV park, living there permanently to give that development, that business income throughout the winter. You're gonna make all of us lose our homes, someplace to live. And we're gonna end up being those RV parks parked on your street, on your neighborhood, as homeless people that you don't wanna see out your front door. So that's what I have to say.
Okay.
But it seems to me you're taking a recreation area, trying to turn it into homes. I mean, there's not very much property there. And you got the park on this side, you got the park on the other side, you got the beaches, swimming, fishing. And so there's a lot of traffic everywhere. This is where people are going, and you're gonna take this property and let certain people live there because they can afford it. And then pretty soon, that whole area, people want to go enjoy the parks, enjoy the river. Oh, all of a sudden it's all private property. That's what happens when you start throwing homes in a place. That's a recreation area, and you're trying to put homes in there. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need their names for the public record?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
Would you guys mind stating your names for the public record?
Oh, sure. My name is Ron Kitchener.
Ron, how do you spell your last name?
Kitchener.
Okay, K-I-T-C.
House Kitchen, ER.
Kitchen, okay. Kitchen. And then what's your name?
Luanna Kitchener,
How do you spell Luanna?
Luanna.
I'm assuming Ron is RLN.
Yes.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
I wasn't planning on coming there. Charmaine, our manager, didn't make it. Stephen Monroy,
Well, she's out of town for 2 weeks.
assistant manager at Sandy Riverfront RV Resort, not park. But it's a great place, I think, for Troutdale. Someone's just moved here in the last year, just to see the amount of people that come in and out and get to enjoy the town of Troutdale. It brings a lot more business to the local businesses. We have
Those people from all over the country there every year.
We have a lot of returning people, and then we have monthly stays that come for the winter. A lot of the hospitals, we have a lot of nurses staying here throughout the winter, and then the summertime too, we have a lot of people coming from Arizona and different states. And they all like to enjoy the area, and they've been return customers for many years. So I think the park or the RV resort brings a lot of value to Troutdale, a lot more than a few townhomes. I come from San Diego, California, where they've torn down so much, and it's all townhomes now. There's no parking anywhere. Everyone's paying permit parking to get in, especially like that is a 1-car garage home. It's kind of ridiculous. And if we are going to be using the private driveway, like she said, there's going to be times in the summer we have lines of 3 to 4 RVs packed in there. They're not going to be able to get in or out of their house, and it's going to cause a lot of friction there. So I understand you guys do have a bigger plan in the long run for that, but I think the Sandy Riverfront Resort does bring so much value to this area, and continue to do that, as long as it isn't encroached on with all these other things happening. Just thinking.
Stephen, do you happen to know anything about the private drive off the top of your head or no?
What about it?
I'm trying to see who owns it. If it's owned by the RV park or not.
I think it was bought, because Jeff, I think the Kaiser Corporation sold that lot initially, the smaller lot, like a year ago or something, right?
Oh, I don't know. You mean the drive, the entrance in?
Well, the entrance, no, the lot that they're trying to put the townhouse.
Yeah, that drive is a private drive, well,
Yeah.
it's a corporate.
To my knowledge, their holding group sold the property,
Yes,
the
Yeah,
Kaiser.
the Kaiser Corporation sold that
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
they sold that lot right in front there.
Did they, what about the tax lot that the private drive is on?
I do not believe they sold that.
No,
That's-
no.
That's private, yeah. That is-
So is there an agreement, do you, what I was asking basically is, are you aware of an agreement with the RV park to access that private drive?
I thought it was understood they weren't gonna be using that driveway, but then I've been hearing things that they're, like, just through the renderings on that it looks like they will be using.
And the Whites have an easement to that. We have an easement to that path as well.
So in order for them to be able to use that private access drive, they would need to have an easement with whoever owns that property
That's right.
to use that.
Correct.
So
I
if
think
there's
so.
not currently an easement in place for the new property owner of those four
Do not know.
lots,
Don't know
they would
that.
need to create an easement, and that would need to be something that the property owner of that lot agrees to. So if the RV park is the owner of that lot, they control the access. Maybe something you wanna ask Charmaine, if she knows anything about, or ask the owners if they're aware of.
If that they would need an easement to use it, I mean, that
Yeah.
would be common knowledge of this private property, but I thought it said in the plans that they weren't gonna use it, but the drawing plans show they are using it.
Yeah, that plan definitely shows them using it.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. Or in the summertime, it would be, just with Glen Auto and Sugar Pine traffic, it'll take them 20 minutes to get into their house.
Yeah, so it seems that the easement is something that needs to be further investigated in addition to the vegetation corridor standards.
Yeah.
And the erosion on
Running out
that,
of
like
room
Teresa
right
said,
now.
on the northeast side even, it's starting, like the northwest for sure too, but it's eroding a lot very quickly. It's just they're gonna be losing their property value immensely, so I think about it. This doesn't seem like a great business decision.
And also, I just wanna say that I apologize for that I don't know the answers to all of the questions that you are all bringing up, and I'm glad that you are asking these questions that are causing us to look them up, but I apologize that I don't know all of them in advance of this. I've been at 2 conferences, I've only been at work for like 4 days, at the office, 4 days of the past 2 weeks, so I haven't had time to do a really thorough review, but this is bringing up a lot of things that we will be addressing with the land use planners to ensure that we have answers to these questions, and at our next meeting, we can update you all on that. I am trying to see if I can get more information on who owns that tax lot right now.
Who's the planner on this project?
Dakota Meyer.
Okay, and he couldn't make it?
No, he doesn't necessarily have to come
Okay.
to these. We also don't currently have a director who would tell him to come to these things. And this is the first one that we've had, so if in the future you would like the land use planner to attend this meeting, that can be something that I request with the new director, that whoever is
Well,
reviewing
depends on-
that case file comes.
What the subject is, like tonight, it would be good to have something,
Mhm.
depends on,
And it's also very possible that he hasn't conducted his review yet either. So when a land use application comes in, the city has 30 days to review the material and deem it either complete or incomplete. And that simply means, did they submit everything we need to conduct a review, or did they not submit everything that we need to conduct a review? And so he deemed it complete, which triggered the land use notification going out. So it's very likely that he has not conducted his review of it yet, because this is that period of time when everyone, like all the other review entities begin their review. And then typically a land use planner will gather that information and then conduct their review while looking at everyone else's comments as well, and make conditions of approval and findings based on that entire package of reviews. But these are all gonna be very helpful things. This is all being recorded, and I will send him a link to this meeting and request that he listen to the meeting so that he can hear all of your comments firsthand. For some reason, I'm having a lot of trouble with this tax lot working on both our GIS and Multnomah County Sales GIS, where it's not showing me information. So I will try to get some more further information on that private drive to ensure that it is in fact a private drive. Sorry, my alarm. Yeah, our GIS doesn't have it listed as a private drive, so if we don't have an extension of our GIS showing it as a private drive, so we're considering it a driveway currently, the driveway for the RV park. Adding additional lots with access on it might bump it from a driveway to a private drive though, which have different standards, which are also in the development code.
So if it's owned by the RV park though?
And that's something I cannot confirm or deny right now.
All right. If it's owned by them though, then it is not a public, I mean, they have to provide an easement like they've done for the whites in order for these people to use it.
There is no owner, when I click on the tax lot, there is no owner information listed.
But is it a separate?
It's a separate tax
Tax
lot,
lot?
but there is no owner information.
It's owned by all of us.
So I am curious.
As hard as this is for us to even contemplate, wouldn't this be something that should be bumped up to a higher committee to look at this?
That would be a really great question for a community development director,
Right.
of which you do not.
Well, you have an
You could ask Heather.
you have an
Heather as a
acting,
community
yeah.
development director.
You have an acting
Yeah,
one.
because I think there's a lot here that can't be just, that has to be looked at.
Yeah, so I think that as the town center advisory committee, you could, I don't know if this is the official way,
Request.
Tanny, but maybe make a request that this application be reviewed by planning commission per the acting community development director
Request that
requiring it.
planning review it.
Yeah.
This just seems to me like it'd be a good candidate for type 5. Okay.
Right, I mean, there's a lot here.
And in case you don't know, there's only 4 types.
So, yeah, I think that maybe that's the way we should go, because there's too many unanswered questions. And that way then everybody gets heard. And we could, by that time, we could have all the answers maybe, or some of the answers.
Or would simply elevation to the planning commission elicit some urgency behind getting some of those answers?
Right.
Well, you would get the answers
Either way.
either way.
Yeah.
So today is the cutoff for public comment, is that right, Marley?
That is correct.
So can that get extended? Or
You asking?
by moving into planning or something?
If you moved it to planning, if you elevated it to a type 3, the type 3 rules would then all come into play. Okay.
Which means that there would be a public hearing.
There would be a
So-
public hearing, there'd be notice goes out.
This is technically not a public hearing, like we've allowed the public to speak on the topic, but it's technically not a formal public hearing like what planning commission
We
would
only can
hear.
recommend.
It's a public meeting
Yeah,
versus a land use hearing.
right, versus, so like them speaking today doesn't necessarily get them appeal rights.
Correct.
Like you would have at a planning commission hearing, where when a member of the public speaks during a public hearing at a planning commission meeting, they would then have the right to appeal the planning commission's decision.
Me?
Go ahead, yes.
I would just say, based on what we've seen and heard, looking at it, you have a private drive. We don't know if there's access or an easement involved in that. We don't know the extent of the amount of the property that is encumbered by the floodplain. We don't know the VECO, or frankly, even the slope district ramifications. And we also have to, of course, take into account that it is a salmon bearing stream, which is standard is minimum of 50 feet. I'm just saying, with all of these things, it just seems a lot of things that we can't answer.
I just thought of
This is
something
Jeff.
that.
First thing that comes to mind to me is, do the residents of Troutdale want to put, like Mr. Kitchen said, do you want to put housing in an area that's considered a recreational area that brings in people to Troutdale? I personally think it's the wrong location for townhomes. It's a recreation, like he was saying, so everything around there is recreation.
But Jeff put that up for sale. The owner of the RV park
Sold it independently.
that to somebody.
Yeah.
To be used for something other than what he's been using it for. So he opened the door to what's going in there too, so.
It is an approved use for that zone.
That's mixed use.
Yeah.
And
I
why
guess
is it,
why
I think
is
being
it?
two-story, does it have to be, I know why it's being two-story, I'm sure they'd love to have it 5 stories, but
Yeah.
it seems to me like a duplex would fit there better than 4 townhomes. I put foot on, I went there and walked it, and I brought this little map with me. It's an incredibly small plot right there. It's amazing how small it is. And I can't imagine how they're gonna put some way to drive in and park, and it's right across from Glen Auto Park. I mean, you could spit across the street.
And I don't disagree with you, it's just, it's an approved, it is something that you can do on that site.
Right, but maybe they're doing too much, is what I'm saying.
Well,
A little over-ambitious.
I
in my
don't
opinion.
disagree with you. And also too, it's very complex, because you've got a park, which is a community service use. You've got Sugar Pine, which is commercial. You've got the auto property, which some of that is commercial. You've got the RV park, which is residential / commercial. You've got residential across the street.
Got Beaver Creek.
You've got
next to it.
commercial next to it, residential on the other side of that. So I mean, it's like, just, you could do commercial there, you could do residential there, you could do a multitude of things there, and it would really all fit from that standpoint.
But I'm sure any developer has that property is figuring out the maximum, how they can maximize that property. And I think this townhouse, these 4 townhouses, 2 stories high, is pushing the limits in my opinion.
Well, there's ones across the street that are 3 stories high, so.
Yeah, you're right on that corridor that the city's famous for, the view of the bridge, the park. I mean, it's like where people come to Troutdale for.
I don't disagree, and there are other, citing standards in the zoning district chapter that we have a minimum and a maximum density, and I will note that this is 4 tax lots and not 1 tax lot. So, it's already been subdivided, into these 4 separate tax lots, and so that's probably why they're proposing 4 instead of 2, but also we have minimum density standards. So our code might have looked at that original site and said that you couldn't do 2. It might have required,
You probably had to do 4.
which is very common. Why we have a lot of townhomes adjacent to the downtown.
Sadly, anything that gets developed has to be, just speaking for myself, when I say sadly, has to be at least 80% of the maximum that could possibly go on that parcel. Pardon me?
That is sad.
Diane, would there be a reduced variance based upon issues with entry? Could that trigger do you know what I'm just saying? It's because.
Or you mean a setback, like a minimum setback?
Yeah, and also because, did you say the actual driveway is a separate tax lot all in itself? Okay.
Yes, the tax lot is, separate here. I can share my screen again in a minute.
This is a bizarre question, but.
It's owned by the RV park.
Well, that's currently what we're unclear about, because the tax lot data doesn't state that, and it sounds like the 4 parcels that are in question were owned by the owner of the RV park, and he sold them to this developer who is now developing this.
Right. That's a 5th tax lot.
Yes. So, let me put on an aerial really quickly. For some reason, this GIS hates my laptop and wants to make everything all weird shaped, but hopefully we will see it here. Here, let me make the tax lots bright yellow. So here you can see that the private drive or the driveway is on its own tax lot, separate from these 4 tax lots. I don't know the history of when these 4 tax lots were subdivided, but that might be another thing to ask Dakota, the land use planner, to do include a little bit of background on, is when were these 4 lots previously subdivided? Because the subdivision of the lots is sort of guiding what is being proposed. If these 4 lots hadn't been subdivided, we could have received a different application, because seeing lots subdivided, it leads the way to housing being what is built on those sites. So I think that having background on that subdivision process on the record with the application would also be helpful. It could be helpful for planning commission if they end up ultimately reviewing it.
No, it's too complicated. I mean, I feel sorry for the planner here, because there is a lot of ifs, when, did we do enough, did we not do enough? Are they in?
And on paper, it does seem like it should be, okay,
Right.
Here it is, it's the stand, they submit the application for the homes and then we review it, but upon further inspection, we're realizing that it's a little bit more complicated. Now, I don't know if that means that the process is to deny the application, and then if they were to apply again, that's when it gets kicked up to planning commission, or if there's a way in which mid-application it can be kicked up.
It can be
There is.
kicked up, yes.
Okay.
So, well, do we want to make a request of them? Is that what we want to do,
Yeah,
to kick it up?
I guess what I would say is that this body would officially request that this application be bumped to a type 3 for further review.
So we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Wait a sec. Oh, so you want a motion?
Yeah, I move, this is Adrian, I move that, that we make that the Town Center Advisory Board make a request to the acting Community Development Director to bump this to a type 3 hearing in front of the Planning Commission. Did I say that right?
Yeah, friendly amendment. If we could do application LU-0013-2023.
So moved.
I second.
We get all in favor, or do we have to do a roll call?
Roll call.
It's a
Roll
motion,
call.
so we should.
Okay, roll call.
That's my other job. There's a dog park grand opening, by the way.
Dog park and
This is now.
development. What's with you?
I have an interesting job. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I get everyone's names just right, which I'm still gonna pronounce them wrong. Committee member Candy Stephenson,
Yes.
Chair John Leamy,
Yes.
committee member Diane Castillo White,
Yes.
committee member Zach Andrews,
Yes.
committee member Will Knight,
Yes.
committee member Victoria Rizzo is not present, so committee member Adrian Kester. I'll get it
Yes.
one day.
Nobody gets it right the first time, so. believe
Kester,
me,
I just
I'm
need
used
to
to
like
it.
throw the O out from my mind and just Kester, okay. Committee member Jeff Hutchinson,
Yes.
vice chair Shirley Prickett.
No.
Carol's.
Oh, so Carol, sorry, committee member Shirley Prickett,
Yes.
vice chair Carol Allen.
Yes.
And then Robbie, you are an alternate, so I don't believe that you
It would have been a yes.
vote.
That's unanimous. It's kind of resounding.
All right.
So that is unanimous, so we will include in official comments for the record of the application, a request to the director, to the community development director, the acting community development director, to make land use application 0013-2023 a type 3 application to be reviewed and decided upon by the planning commission. Are there any other recommendations, or maybe would you recommend a summary of this conversation be included in that recommendation?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Someone like to make that motion?
Oh, I move that we add a summary of what we talked about at our meeting tonight. A second. Sure. Make a motion, Carol second.
Summary. Meeting to recommendation. All right, do I have to go through the whole list again, or are we gonna do all in favor?
Sure.
Actually,
I think you can get by with it because it's not,
Right, okay.
it's part of the original motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So this is only a recommendation, they may not
They may not.
do it,
Yeah.
and they may just proceed with the
Right.
approval or whatever, right?
I believe that, don't quote me on this, because I actually don't know this now, so I'm looking at Tanny.
Okay.
I believe that this committee has appeal rights because they're providing comments during the official comment period.
It does.
Okay.
So if there were a decision that were made that this committee did not agree upon, they could file a formal appeal. And a formal appeal would bring it to planning commission.
Yeah.
So either way.
So one way or another.
Well, we'd rather not get it like that.
And I have a question, Jeff here, Tanny can probably answer. The type 3 is gonna allow additional public comment, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
It will also allow additional public notification.
good.
So a wider range of the neighbors would be notified in that process. And that is actually a very, this is a very unique case because normally we send out those notifications to property owners, which is not very inclusive of renting communities. And we have a very interesting situation where we have the RV park, which is directly adjacent to this property. So posting the public notice in front of the location would be crucial to that and making sure that they get that notice. And maybe coming up with a way that the RV park could notify their residents of that application.
Right. Member comment. Diane?
Just interested in knowing what's going on with the Confluence site. And I did get to go to the League of Cities, and Ray had asked me to take a picture of signage along the waterfront. So I rented a electric bike, and that made it up. They have a rose garden on their waterfront and parks and all sorts of amazing things. So
I love that.
So electric, you could go 20 miles an hour unless you're passing someone. You can only go 12 miles an hour, and then make an audible noise. And so it was really interesting because I signed up for this, and I think I signed up 12 years ago when they didn't have the linear park. So it was very exciting for me to.
Will you let everyone know where League of Oregon Cities was held this year?
Oh, Eugene.
Mm.
Eugene, downtown.
Great, thanks. And you had done Ben's in the past too, and were impressed with their riverfront park as well, right?
Oh,
The stormwater, specifically the
Oh, yeah.
stormwater
I
swales.
thought it was a waterfront tour, it was stormwater tour. Yeah, beautiful stormwater catchers, though. They had the most lovely, that just shows anything that you create, you could do it well and enhance a city. Yeah, which is neat. But I'll be sending you and Ray those signs, the signage that they use all along the waterfront.
Thank you.
I have nothing to add.
I want to sort of preemptively add my condolences to the poor planner who has to go through all of the unanswered questions on the previous land use application. But secondarily to that, I just want to say I'm looking forward to being part of this group. Since I look out my front deck and I pretty much see the entirety of town center in front of me from my vantage point up on 4th Street. So I'm happy to watch things develop and change and hopefully have some say in the process. So glad to be here.
Oh, I get comments? Oh, I don't really have anything specific, but you could see that I've just been kind of leafing through this absent-mindedly, and I believe that the Sandy Riverfront Park is a part of the Confluence site. Is that correct? Is there just to ask a question, is there independent development or are those interconnected? Because I know that you said I'd love an update on the Confluence site. So are those two the same or different?
They are, the waterfront park or the riverfront park is something that the city is constructing and building. So it is separate from the private development. We have separated those tax lots, so any floodplain or vegetation corridor encumbrances are all located on the publicly owned trail site. So we will be going through that process no matter what happens. And then the private development is on the other side of it. So the trail system will remain public.
Okay. There's a handful of us on the Parks Advisory Committee, so just
Well, there's
point of
there's
curiosity.
definitely a lot of crossover between these two things. So I'm glad that there is a little bit of crossover between those committees, and you can help keep them updated on that as well. I'm often talking with Jonah and about all these different things. So
Sweet. That's it for me. Thank you.
Just interested in what's happening with the influence.
We'll find
I'll give an
out.
update once you guys all go the way through.
Okay. What's going on with this over here also, the apartments, so.
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
Oh,
excuse
no,
me.
workforce housing, sorry,
Whatever.
we changed it.
Yeah, I haven't seen ground broken or anything, what's going on.
That is something that I don't know. I was not included in a lot of those conversations, so I'm not aware.
Okay.
I will try to find out more information,
Yeah, we know it's coming, so.
but I don't know.
I can tell you what I know based on what I've seen in the meetings I've attended, but we can do that afterwards.
And then another question I have, and I don't want to cause any trouble here, but the oversight of this committee and this building that is being redone out here. When a building changes use and the major changes in that, typically, doesn't that come before us?
The way that the resolution is written, that created this committee, which I believe last year I printed it for you guys, so it might be in some of your books if you were in this last year. But if not, I can get a copy, and I need to get a copy for the new members as well. But it states that you guys will review the opportunity sites and the opportunity corridors. It does not state that any change of use within the town center is reviewed by this group. And for the property in question that you're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about the second in Buxton, the Kendall building at the second in Buxton.
Right.
So I did provide comments during that application that stated that this committee was not required to review it because I checked the opportunity sites and that is not included in any of the opportunity sites. And I think that that was new information to a number of people who were on the town center committee. And I did go back and look through some maps, and original maps did show that parcel as part of that opportunity site. The final version of the town center plan did not include that parcel as part of that opportunity site.
Okay.
And I don't know how or why, if that was intentional, if it was unintentional, but the adopted version did not include that property in the opportunity site. It was focused more on the Home Forward site.
Okay.
It didn't even go in front of historical landmark commission either. We had no clue what was happening until after it happened.
Yep, and that is also because it's not a designated historic landmark per the development code.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have a designated list. It's identified as a potentially, could potentially qualify, but no one has ever applied for that application on that site.
But it's kind of like the clinker brick house that was coming down before they found out what was going on.
Yeah, there are a number of properties that have been identified as potentially eligible properties that aren't actually on the designated list. And there is, I used to be the Landmarks Commission staff liaison, so I went through that process in the past, and there's a process for getting those properties listed on there that includes property owner approval and all these other different sort of things, and that's all housed in the development code. But there is a list of the actual properties, and that wasn't one of those properties. That is why there was no formal public hearing on the modification of it.
The only thing I have is, we have electric bikes, which is great, and hopefully they will announce themselves when they're on the trail, because they don't always do that, and they are real quiet, so you don't hear them. We now have the unicycle electric vehicles. You have not seen those? It's a one-wheel thing, and a guy rides it, I see him everywhere.
Oh, yes, I have seen those.
And he's real quiet, he not necessarily uses the bike lane, but will use the sidewalk.
I have seen him.
And he does it at night with no lights, no reflection. I've seen him in the middle of the road, I've seen him out in Boring, driving down the middle of the road. And he can go about 25 miles an hour.
Yeah,
So it's amazing to watch him do this, but it's scary.
I would agree. I don't
I
know
think he
what
should be
standard.
licensed, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know what applies.
I don't know what it applies to either.
In that situation, like
I'm just afraid
motorcyclists
somebody's
have
gonna
certain
hit him
requirements.
because he comes up pretty fast.
Yeah.
And he's smiling, I mean, he's having a great time. But just to let you know, he's out there somewhere. I haven't seen too many, but he's been around.
The worst part is nighttime, no light.
Yeah. Which is the same, and that's the same for someone who's riding a
And
bike. Anyone who's not taking safety precautions at night.
Unless it's really lit, you don't see them.
Right.
The one thing I do know is that that does qualify as a motor vehicle under prohibitions for use in parks and trails. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't stop them.
But that does call
But
into question any enforcement rules potentially.
Well, because I know, because I've heard it stated at parks meetings, is Jonah has yelled at people who are on those motorized longboards and on the wheels that are cruising through parks at 20 miles an hour plus. And he has barked at people for doing that. So the park staff do deal with it when they can.
Yeah, and I don't believe that our park staff are, I don't know that enabled is the right word, or like have the authority to ticket.
To ticket.
So we have Joe Storgy, who's our code compliance officer, and then of course the Multnomah County Sheriff's.
Yeah, the authority to confiscate.
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with all the parks rules.
All I
but
gotta
that
say is I hope he doesn't get run over.
Yeah,
That's all I'm hoping.
I think we all can agree that we hope that no one gets hurt.
Kenny. I was gonna say, I understand the resolution for the formation of this committee. And there's several of us on here that are retreads from the Town Center Committee. And I guess I'll just speak for myself and say that I don't recall a discussion about the opportunity sites being something that was going to be reviewed. It was going to be applications within the town center, and specifically the confluence was one of those. And it's just kind of somewhere between surprising and disheartening to know that something like the confluence that we talked about, to the extent that we did, is off the table. And I'm just...
Right, given that you're saying because it's not an opportunity site?
It's not an opportunity site, and so it's out of the purview of this committee, and this is one of the reasons that that group formed this committee, was to review that in particular and other things. So it's kind of disappointing that our scope is like...
So would you guys, is there a desire to go back to city council and ask them to modify the scope of the committee?
Personally, I would say yes. And the reason I would say yes is because I don't feel that we've honored the town center plan and that committee's work.
So is that a?
Just a personal opinion.
Is this
Well,
something we
and
want
we
to?
were the ones that basically spearheaded, reviewing
Who did?
the town, this committee, reviewing
Yeah, there was
the
an,
applicants.
there was an additional resolution that was done by the the city council that extended that authority to you guys for that process.
For that process only,
Yes.
and then the property got taken away from us, basically, but
I don't know that I would say it got taken away from you. It's
Right.
just
Modified,
there's two resolutions that have stated the purpose of the committee.
Right.
Which I can include, if we want this to be a discussion item at the next meeting, maybe we can include both of those resolutions and talk about, and maybe a requested change or a request to plan, or again, city council, and figure out what that process looks like, if you want it to be a discussion item.
It can be a discussion item. I'm just, I guess, voicing what I felt this committee was gonna do and what the town center committee was looking for at the time. And I just don't feel like we've met that. But I'm one voice. Diane, put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah, I'm in agreement, and only that we got into comparisons analysis and then trying to evoke, as representing the citizenry, what we would like to be there. So there was a lot of thought going into it. And so it'd just be nice to somehow still be attached to it so that we can follow the intent, that why we selected who we selected.
So is the concern specifically the confluence, or does it extend beyond that?
I would just say, for me, I'd like to see it go back to the spirit of what was discussed. And the question is, was it a staff decision that modified it? Was it a council decision that modified it? Was it a collective decision that modified it? I don't know.
And I also don't know, so I can maybe pull the minutes from that council meeting and see if there was a discussion, like see if we want to review that discussion. I can try to pull some more information. The community development director, who obviously took that to council, is not with the city anymore, so.
And I'll just, go ahead and make the excuse right now. How does something like that get through the cracks? I don't have a good answer for you. The only thing I can say is 186 pages of plan, and I don't know how many resolutions and how many council meetings and work sessions there were. And I'm just making excuses for myself here. After a while, it all starts to look the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really extensive document. It's really easy for things like that to happen.
This is Zach. I would just say that I agree with the spirit of that comment, and knowing, again, at the start of this committee, meeting with all of you folks who worked on the town center plan, it would make sense to continue kind of the process of oversight for the area that is in question, much like the Parks Committee is kind of spearheading decision-making, for the parks as well, via the parks plan, master plan that they helped put together. So I think it makes sense. I'm definitely down for that. And I know you're gonna give updates on the confluence side, so I don't need to comment any further on that. But.
Yeah, and it is possible. I mean, so with the confluence and with an update on that, we really don't have a great update to give because they're in the exclusive negotiation agreement period with Capstone right now, and Capstone is actively negotiating with the owners of the outlet mall, because that was the whole sticking point. Can we get the road through the outlet mall? I don't have an update on how those conversations are going. So we really don't know much more than that. I believe that they have to go back to council and give an update at a specific point in that process. So that's sort of where we're at with that. And I think that with the current scope for the town center advisory committee, but it's also, you know, they modified that scope to include reviewing the requests for qualifications for the Confluence site. It's possible that as we move into that next step in that process, that they would modify it again to review something else. But it sounds like we want to add a discussion item to review this committee's scope and ensure that it meets the intention of the town center plan, and that if there are any requested modifications to that scope, that that's something we bring forth before council. And so reviewing the original minutes from the meeting where this committee was formed. We've also been doing this, you know, we met previously almost exclusively about the Confluence, and now we're meeting about this. But maybe there are some other things in there that we want to change. Some of the in around how this committee is structured. So like one of the things is the frequency at which we meet. It's sort of an as needed committee. And I think there might be desire from some of the committee members that it's a monthly reoccurring meeting, regardless of if there's a opportunity site application or not, or a specific business item. So that might be something you want to review. And then also the structure of who is selected for the committee. One of the things that I've noticed is that there is no downtown business representatives. We have John Leamy, who is a downtown business representative, but he is not selected because he is a downtown business representative. And so maybe that's a value that you guys would identify as wanting to have a voice that can speak to that audience on the committee in the future, or maybe there's other voices that you would want to prioritize having. So I think it would be helpful, now that we've been doing this for a period of time and we kind of understand the committee, that we want to make sure that that all aligns with the town center plan and what would work best for operating this committee within the town center.
A follow-up question,
Yeah.
With the departure of the community development director that was working on the Confluence talks and everything before, has that affected anything in any way in regard to the process as far as?
Currently, no. You know, I'm still in communication with them, and will continue to be in communication with them and Ray and our lawyers, and you know, there's a lot of other people that were added to the mix after they were selected. But it was always, even at that time, it was identified that the community development director and myself would be sort of like project managing it, and helping build those communications. So I'll continue to do that, and then once we have a new community development director, that would be a role that they would step into as well.
And I think Ray had sent out an email that there'd be an update on the Confluence in November.
Yeah, I believe that's when they have to go to council and give that that update for the urban renewal agency.
Do you have any comments?
Hey, everyone. Nice to see everyone. I don't really have too much. Just got a chance to see about every time I had a question, somebody jumped in and asked it. And every time I had something to add, somebody hopped in and said it. And so I feel like we've got a really talented and knowledgeable group of people here, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. So thank you for having me. And for those of you that I know, hello. For those of you that I don't know, I look forward to meeting you at some point soon. And until the next time, everybody stay well and have a good night.
John, can we say hi to Sandy?
Pardon?
Can we say hi to Sandy?
I
said
And then Paul might want to comment.
Oh,
There she is.
Right, Paul's got a comment.
Oh, does he?
Any
Well-
comments, Sandy?
Nope, just enjoy listening to your conversation tonight.
Oh, okay. Paul, do you have any comment?
Well, looks like it might be coming my way in the future anyway.
Yeah. All righty.
The only other thing I wanted to ask really quickly is for our next meeting. So we sort of threw this one onto the calendar so that we could meet this review timeline. In the past, I believe we were meeting on the third Thursdays, I think. Is third Thursday of the month the desired continued day for you guys to meet? Is there a different, do you like Tuesdays over Thursdays? Is it like 7 p.m. versus or 7 p.m. instead of 6 p.m.? Any?
I showed up here at 6, thinking that I did not get the time change. So that was a really convenient time for me.
Sorry about that. I'm glad you were able to stay the whole time.
7 still works best for me. This is
7.
Yeah, and then Thursdays are perfect.
Personally, Tuesdays work better than Thursdays for me, but that, I mean, I can still do Thursdays. I have to tell my Dungeons and Dragons crew that I'm gonna be late.
Anyone else have opinions one way or another?
Either one, so long as I know of when that's, yeah.
Either
Tuesday,
one?
Thursday is fine.
Scheduled time works best for me.
Do Tuesdays work for you? If not?
Tuesdays are quite difficult.
Quite difficult, okay.
So are we looking at a meeting in November, or are we looking?
That would
Yeah.
potentially be after they get the update, right? It'd be nice to kind of hear.
But we don't, do we know when it's going to be presented to city council?
If it's presented, in
It would have to,
November,
there's only one.
it
city
most
council.
likely is gonna be the 14th, and we would meet
Well, 16.
on the 16th.
So next meeting is November 16th.
Right.
Let me just double check
And
the,
that's at 7 o'clock.
Right here.
can't meet then, the Parks Advisory Committee is meeting.
Change that
Um,
to parks.
At least that's what the Kellogg room says, is PAC, so maybe you guys
The
moved a
online
meeting?
schedule has parks on the 15th.
Oh, we canceled.
The Department of State Lands is having a public hearing here on the 15th?
Which is why, yeah, there was an email that went out about the conflict of scheduling, which is why they were talking about bumping it to the 16th that time.
Maybe we could do a joint Parks and Town Center Advisory Board meeting, and since half of you guys are on both those, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Did we vote not to have it in November? I thought we did.
Yeah.
Or was it October?
It was October.
It was October because
It
of
was
the
October.
dog park, right?
Right. Or we just didn't have, we didn't have an
November,
update.
Saturday, the 22nd is.
Well, how does second Thursday of the month?
Dog park opening.
Dog park.
Well, we want to do it after city council ideally gets their information from the confluence.
So that there's an update from
which
the
is ideal.
confluence.
Yeah.
So Thursday, the
next
9th is available if we wanted to have it on Thursday, the 9th. If anything past, that week that the council is meeting on the 14th, the week after that is Thanksgiving, so it's gonna be really challenging to do.
What about the last day of the month on the 30th? Thursday.
It is available on the 30th if you would like to meet. So that could sort of be, if you wanted to not have a meeting in December,
November,
you could have it
December.
on November 30th, and it sort of like combines both November and December.
But if my memory, although my calendar says it's, that historical is meeting that night.
Did they formally move it? Because they're supposed to meet on the 23rd, which is obviously Thanksgiving. So there's nothing on the calendar saying they've moved it yet.
I'm pretty sure we moved it, but
I have to look.
It goes by dibs, right?
I'm gonna sneak in there and grab it.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
They didn't put it on the calendar, so we did.
It's very good.
Well, it wouldn't be on the Kellogg calendar because we said that the
It'd
next,
be on Zoom.
our next historical landmarks was gonna be strictly on Zoom.
I see.
Unless you want half of us sitting there on Zoom and half of us here.
Or we could
That would
do
be
a
interesting.
joint meeting of both. I'm sure both parties would find it interesting. We could also do the first week of, never mind, public safety is on Thursday.
I guess the question I would have is council getting their update on the 14th? Because if they're not, they're getting it some other time, then I guess we could meet on the 9th, because it wouldn't really matter. Right?
So why don't we tentatively schedule it for the 9th, and then we can move it if we need to.
Based on what they do.
Right. So we get it
That
on the
works for me.
get it on the calendar.
Okay, so we will tentatively schedule it for the 9th, and then I will try to figure out
what they're doing,
and
Maybe we should get them to come update us early, ahead of council.
That'd be really cool.
color. Trying to figure out what color I'm supposed to use for us. Don't know what our color is.
We could have a combined planning meeting.
Ooh, we have turquoise blue. It's our brand.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Well, thank you.
Next meeting then.
Yeah, we'll put out another public notice for the meeting. How did you guys find out about the meeting tonight? Did you see it online?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we put it up there again, you'll see it, or do you want me to reach out to you guys directly? Yeah, okay.
Civic.
And that'll be a full public meeting, so we have multiple people speaking.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's open to the public, but it's not a public hearing.
It's not, but if you submit something to talk about before.
Yeah, so, in the beginning of the agendas, there's a, like a time for public speaking, that like, if there's any comments from the public, they can speak at that time. So yeah, you can do that at any city meeting has that in the beginning too.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy, my comment was, my concern is that city council gives us things to do, and then they take it away, and we never know what happens. And I brought this up in many committees, in which I feel like, you know, we need to hold the city accountable. We need to know if there's changing things, and they're changing rules, and they're changing all this. We should be notified of those differences, and why aren't we being notified? And this is just all committee.
That's
wide
happened
in our
So
city.
you're asking why they don't?
I could be asking and making mistakes.
She's making a statement.
Yes, eventually.
I agree with you.
Right, it's happened.
Many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened, and we have to go.
2 or 3 times.
3 times that at least.
A week, sorry.
But at least notable enough that if they're gonna make a decision about a committee, that we should be notified. On any committee, I don't care if you're on the Parks Committee, CAC, Planning Commission.
Well, I think it's committee-wide in our
Right.
city that.
They just
things
change
are-
things, and then you're sitting there going, huh?
Or we're not notified of things.
Right.
And we're going, huh?
Yeah.
Or is it and I haven't been doing this long enough to say, but has the committee been making assumptions about what our scope is, and those assumptions are fundamentally wrong?
For me, I would say probably all of the above, but I will just say that I think what's difficult is when the public process, let's say, is parks or CAC or planning or TCAB or whatever it is, that's the public process, and that lands on council. And it's the only public process. I think council needs to really take a weighted look at that.
Yeah. Because like, for example, and I realize that, again, I'm acknowledging my newness to this, is my sort of feeling and assumption coming into TCAB was that the sort of visibility purview of this group was basically anything that is covered by the town center overlay in this packet. not just the opportunity zones and corridors. So if the overlay covers it, it really should be in front of this group.
That's, again, I'm new at this, so again, I'm with you on that. I assumed that it covered all of the town center overlay, not just certain pieces. Because this dictates that whole.
Now, I could also see where the weight of what this body does can change depending on whether it is in an opportunity space in corridor versus if it's just in the overlay. I could see some distinctions being made there. But those still probably need to be set a little more solidly than what they appear to be.
Agreed. So, I will include the ordinance in our next meeting so that we can go over that and discuss it. It does talk about the town center plan, but section 1, it's talking about, the town center board is hereby, oh, my computer just died, so just kidding, I don't know what it's about.
Discussion for next time.
It was like, nope, you're discussing this next time.
Well, thank you for being here and helping us.
Yeah, absolutely, I'll help you next time.
I got the hard copy if you want to continue.
Oh, yeah, so he's got, so if anyone is curious, attachment A to that is what specifically lays out the.
We have a motion that we adjourn.
Yeah.
I second it.
Who made that
I
motion?
moved that
You
we
made the
adjourn.
motion?
Carol seconded it.
Okay, so we have, okay, Shirley motion, Carol seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Marley.
My battery went dead.
My phone.